What's up guys, Money Pit back with another video. I know it's been a while. Something happened a couple weeks ago where the car actually overheated. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but the car is very dusty. That's because it's been sitting for a little over a month now. And this is the hardest thing when tuning your car, really being a car enthusiast, is the amount of time, or the amount of downtime I should say, that the car goes through versus the amount of time that you actually get to enjoy it. And I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why people end up offing their money pits and just basically selling them for super cheap or discounted deals, and like when you see on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace at times. And it's really kind of hard because it's your passion project, right? And you always want to make sure you finish it and do it to the standard that you would be accepted, or that you would accept it at. And a lot of it is running out of financials, not having a place to store it, and just being tired of the headache of the car constantly breaking down. So that's kind of where I was hitting the point at after I tuned the car. I was like, finally, I can drive it now. AC, I got it fixed. I can daily drive it. And then the car overheated, and I was very disappointed, obviously, because a lot of things were going wrong with the car that I didn't enjoy. And it's money that I had but didn't want to pour into the car, because you get to a point where you pour so much money into your cars, into your money pits, into your passion projects, that you just end up losing interest because of how much more money you have to invest. But here we are, still chugging through. Hopefully the dream doesn't die. Financials still keep coming in and we start getting monetized on this channel. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to start opening up this toolkit. As you can tell, I did not open it yet, so it's all new. There's a couple of things here. I have to figure out how to use this actually, because I've never used one of these before. But it has different stems for different kinds of coolant caps. And unfortunately, this one doesn't say the pressure I need to go to, so it's kind of a guessing game right now of how much pressure I need to put on. But I'm assuming it's nothing more than 15 psi, given that it's a Honda. So before we do that, obviously you have to fill up the water, so that way you have water to see where the car is leaking from. Even though you might have already had the leak and a bunch of coolant missing, you just really got to fill it up with water so you don't waste money on coolant. Technically you're supposed to put alkaline water in, but because I'm only using it for testing, I'm just going to use the regular tap water from the hose. I'm not too worried about it because it's just going to be in and out, really only for testing purposes. So you guys can tell, I filled up the car with water, and basically this pressurizing tool, all you have to do is pump air into it, and that basically mocks the car being on and being fully pressurized. I didn't hit record, so you didn't see where the leak was, but we'll see if there's enough water to show where the leak is. So in the forums, there wasn't like a clear indication of how much pressure to put through the system. So I'm just kind of winging it. I'm thinking 15 psi is like where it should be at for Hondas, since it's not a big engine. And luckily this is like a smaller pressure tester kit, so it'll work perfectly fine for my use case. So as you can see right here, you can see a bunch of water coming out, and that's because there's a break in the hose somewhere. So I'm basically depressurizing the system right now so I can actually get in there and look. And I don't know why it smells like this is leaking. What's it called? This little AN fitting for the fuel rail. So I need to see what's going on there. Probably change this whole thing out again for something that's not going to leak. But looks like there's a little cap here. Let me see if I can bring the camera in so you guys can probably see a little better what I'm talking about. So I don't know if you guys can tell, right behind this hose right here, there's a little block off cap that's connected to the actual intake manifold, and it looks like that is what's leaking. Only thing is, I don't have anything to replace that with, or don't really know where it comes from. I blocked off this thing right here for bar reasons, but I'm thinking maybe this just returns into this line right here, because I don't know. I'd have to look up some schematics for the cooling system. Unfortunately, I kind of got really lazy with this car and had multiple people start working on it just because I didn't have time. And that's the bad thing about having others work on your car, is that you just forget what's going on. You don't really know what all went into the car and just how the quality of work that was done to it, essentially. So I need to go back and see what's going on. At least we know where the leak is. I'm going to pressurize it one more time just to see if there's any other leaks. But it's really obvious to tell that it was coming from there. Luckily, we know where it's coming from. We just got to make sure there's no other leaks. So it looks like that's the only leak, thankfully. At least it's not as serious as I thought it was. At least we know that much, so it's not that much more money that I'm gonna have to pour into this thing, but we'll see. You know, that's the thing with project cars or money pits. They just become a money pit, not because you want it to be, essentially, but because that's just the way they turn out. You know, and that's why I feel like a lot of people just give up, because the car's always down and something's always up with the car, to the point where they just give up and they're like tired of it. Hopefully that doesn't happen with us. I don't plan on abandoning this car or selling it anytime soon. Unless a crazy deal comes my way, then I might consider it to upgrade to a Type R, which is my actual dream car. Guys, I can't believe how easy it was to diagnose that. I was thinking doomsday, car, engine's gone, we gotta get a new engine, we gotta pull it out and rebuild it, but look at this. This was the culprit right here. Let me see if it can focus on the camera. So this little end cap, see if we can focus in. This thing's all like torn up and stuff. It's not focusing well. See if it'll focus. Essentially, this was the culprit right here. It was all torn up to bits. Luckily, I have another one, a spare one. It's all clean. So technically, these are only supposed to be used for vacuum leaks and vacuum seals. Like a little nub at the end. But for whatever reason, I don't know who worked on the car last. Like I said, you know, not wanting to work on the car, so many people have their hands on it. You just don't know the quality of work they're doing. Essentially, they put this on, which is like supposed to be like a little sealant, block off cap for any vacuum leaks or whatever. So it's supposed to go on to stuff like this. But it went on to, let me see if I can focus this. So there's a little nub down there. I'm not sure if you can see it that well since there's a lot of stuff in the way of it. But essentially, it's right here. Right here. Essentially, this thing was all cracked up, and that's where it was leaking from. After I did the pressure test, you could see right away that it was leaking from that area. We're still not out of the woods yet. I still have to do the head gasket test to make sure I didn't actually go all the way and fry the engine. So after struggling a bit off camera, of course, I can't find my tools when I need them. So I had to use it with or tighten it down with a screwdriver. But essentially all I'm gonna do now is just repressurize the system after I installed that little part. Hopefully that's the only leak that I had. That way I can bleed the coolant system. All right, now that that's full, I can pressure test it one more time just to ensure everything is good to go. I'll link this down in the description if anyone else wants to buy this. It's a really nice build quality for, I think it was like 25 bucks that I bought it for. So if you leave it there and it holds at the 15 PSI that you have it at, or whatever PSI your car's rated for, then that means you don't have any more leaks. I'm not hearing anything else. So hopefully that was the only thing that it had. I'm just gonna double check this right here. It looks like it's not leaking from this area anymore. Oh yeah, it is leaking from here still, but not as bad as it was before. It could also be that I overpressurized the system too on why it's leaking, but from what I can tell right now, I don't see where else it could be leaking from. Because the EGR valve, or the idler control valve I should say, is fine. All the hoses that I'm touching here are fine, especially the one that I had a tough time clamping down. The ones going to the firewall look fine too. It's just I'm really trying to figure out where else it'd be leaking from. So it was just about 15 psi. Looks like it went down very slightly, so it looks like there is another leak. I just can't tell from where. And also, I don't know if it's because I overpressurized the system too. It's kind of hard to tell. Unfortunately, if I had one of those like shop vat or the, what do they call them? Little shop manuals, I could probably tell real quick if I overpressurized it or not. I think I'm going to call that good for now. I'm not too worried about it. Alright, so honestly, after all this diagnosing, for testing purposes, I'm going to move on and test for the head gasket. So I've shown this, I'm pretty sure, in a previous video. Basically what it is a coolant bleeding kit. It's very nice because you just plug and play. So I'm just going to remove this, depressurize the system. Online in some forums, people are saying anywhere from 10 to 15 psi, and this kind of was holding around 13 psi, which is what most people were saying on Honda Tech forums. Unfortunately, we can't really know unless I get someone that has like a shop manual to look it up for me. Again, I'm just doing it for testing purposes. I'm not too worried about having water in the system right now. Essentially, all you're going to do is just fill it up with water. And then all you have to do is just turn the car on, let it run for a bit to bleed the system. We're going to see a bunch of water coming out, or bubbles coming out. Also, when you're doing this, you want to turn on the heater so the heater coat can cycle through as well and get any air bubbles out of there. So I'm just going to rev it up for a bit. Let the car warm up faster than usual. Alright guys, so it's been roughly 30 minutes already. As you can see, temperatures are holding steady. Car did get warm about 15 minutes ago, so it's been bleeding for about 15 minutes. Usually for this stuff you might want to go a little longer, but because I didn't do a complete coolant flush, there's not a lot of coolant that should be missing, since it was just a leak, a minor leak at the higher end of the engine. Usually if it's a lower hose that is leaking, then obviously you need to go a little more in depth. As you can see here, there's still some bubbles coming up, which means it still needs to be bled. But I think at this point, I'm going to leave it for another 5 minutes and then pull it. Usually if it keeps bubbling like that, that is not a good sign, because that just means that you either need to get what's it called, the pressure test kit, or the test kit for the head gasket that I have, because usually that means that it's leaking from somewhere. Now if you look in the back, if we walk back here, you'll see that there is no water coming out of the pipe. So that's a good sign that there's no water coming out of the pipe. That means it's not that serious of a head gasket leak, if there is a head gasket leak. But let me go ahead and cut the camera here, let it run for another 5 minutes, and then move on to the next step. Alright guys, so we're nearing the end of the video actually. Moment of truth here. These are the instructions that you have to follow. Basically fill up the radiator all the way. Use this universal kit that they have in here. It's only 3 things, very simple to use. But just gonna put this in here like that. We're just gonna put it on coolant, where the coolant cap is supposed to go. And this is where it gets me nervous, because if it does change color, then that means it's a bigger issue than I would have hoped to have. But there's no time like the present. So it says you're supposed to fill it up to that, basically where this line is. So all I got to do now is just turn the car on, let it run for a bit, and see if it changes color. So I have some amazing news, guys. Aside from the rough idle, the temperature has not changed at all. So that means that there is nothing wrong with the head gasket or any of the cylinders. Next thing to do, I'm not sure why, but ever since the tune, it's been a rough idle ever since. But the next thing to do is probably to just go to the auto parts store, get the right hose so that I can start driving the car again and be able to bleed the system correctly this time. And we'll see what we do from there. But aside from that, this car is good to go, guys. You don't know how excited I am. It was so stressful trying to get this done just because, you know, like I said before in the video, a lot of people just lose passion because of how much just work and money has to go into cars that always break down. And that's where I felt like I was for a bit. That's why I didn't touch the car for over a month now. But now it's time for the car reveal. I hope you guys like what's coming up. So if you guys couldn't tell by that little teaser I gave, this is the new 2023 Acura Integra. Now let's get into a closer shot here that you guys can check it out. So this car I've had for about a year. It's a little nice homage to the OG Integra for those of you that know what I'm talking about. I believe the car is DC2, but essentially this is my new car, my daily driver that I've had for over a year now, just because I've had too many issues with my Civic. Like I said, you know, too many things going on with it, too many things I want to fix, too many things I want to do, to the point where it's just better for me economically to just get another car and just save as much money as I can for my project car, my weekend warrior, right? But yeah, guys, I'm excited for this reveal. Hopefully, I might do some upgrades, like very, very minor things that won't affect the car, like rims and tires, nothing more. Maybe some like OEM upgrades. As you can see right here, this is the blackout badge that lights up at night. It's really cool. If it gets to nighttime and I'm still recording, I'll probably shoot a little shot. But yeah, this is my new car. Hopefully you guys like it. I'm probably gonna do some POV driving in a bit, just so you guys can see the interior. Hopefully I got good recording of the exhaust and of cold start on. But I'm gonna start packing up here on the Civic. Probably get some B-roll shots for the Acura. And yeah, thank you guys. And again, I'm gonna be doing more POV driving now, just because it's a little more economical, and it's just sort of like a day-to-day of what I do, how I drive, you know, things that I'm thinking about, more topics about cars that I'm looking up. And, you know, I think that's the way that the channel's going to be going for now, until I can get more viewers, more consistent videos out. I do have a video coming up where I'm helping a friend to upgrade his stereo system from an old one to a new one. So that's going to be fun. We're going to see how it goes. I haven't done newer cars, only older cars. So hopefully we don't break any clips in the process, but we'll see how it goes, right?